Right, so after a little bit of a scavenge through my scrap bin, I found a couple of usable pieces. Well, I'm going to make them usable. So what I did was, I cut them up, and I figured I could make a barbecue fork out of these pieces. And back in she goes for another day. Okay, so this is going to be the handle of the fork. I'm going to do a forge welded collar onto that, and I'm going to make the fork and the body out of this section here. Right, so I'm starting off here with a hot cut chisel. I'm just going to cut down the center of this section here. Put a piece of mild steel on my anvil. That helps protect my anvil from any damage from the chisel, and vice versa. Look after your tools and they'll look after you. I'll just bend this section out of the way so I can access the other area and just forge that out into a nice sharp taper. Just work it down, get it nice and sharp. Right, so I'm going to call that good. And on my anvil I'm going to mark the length from the end of the chisel mark to the tip, so I can bend that out of the way and straighten out the other section. So it's a case of heat, beat, and repeat. So once I'm happy with that section, I can just go ahead and straighten them out. Then straight onto the power hammer. I can draw out the handle much quicker. So if you're curious about my power hammer, it's a Blacker Type B. These were originally built in the US, and then later on a company had bought them in England. My one is a 1948 model, and that's around the time they were produced in the UK. And look, they're still going strong, not a bother with it. So I was just forging a piece of the handle there with the power hammer, and now I'm going to drive it into a bolster plate. And a bolster plate is essentially a piece of steel with different size shapes on it. They can be square or round, whatever you want. So doing this is just going to give a bit more definition from the handle into the body of the fork. Because when this is fire welded, you won't be able to tell where it's coming from. If it's all one piece or several pieces joined, you won't be able to tell. So right here I'm making a scarf, and this is where the body is going to be joined onto the handle, and I've done the same then for the handle. Right, so I'm bringing them out of the fire at the welding temperature, place the scarves, and then hammer them together. Nice and easy. And with a good second welding heat now, I can really close up that weld and give no traces of it at all. I think that's the beauty of forge welding. So with a little bit of a heat down near the fork, I'm going to lock this into the leg vise and give it a nice little twist. So it is back on the power hammer, and here I'm using a spring swage. And the spring swage is essentially half round on the top and half round on the bottom. So when I put a square section like the top of the handle here, it's going to forge it round for me. Now, just like that. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to do a collar weld. And this will be a little decorative piece on the top of the handle. So, having marked what I need, I can mark it here with the hot cut. Then I'll get it hot again, and then cut about 3/4 of the way through. While it's still attached to the main bar, I can bend it into a U section. It's much easier to do that whilst it's still on it. And while it's hot, I'm going to shape it around that round section. And it'll be ready then to be forge welded together. So after a couple of minutes in the fire now, she's up to a good welding heat. And it's going to fuse these pieces together. And by the time this is done, it'll just look like it's one piece. And you will never have guessed it was forge welded. So just a bit of dressing on it, and I'm going to call that a good one. And now to finish the handle, I'm going to chisel down the centre on all four sides. And this will be the start of a nice decorative twist. So apparently I didn't record the twist on the handle, but you're going to see the finished piece anyway, so you're going to have to take my word that I did it. So if you're stuck for a mallet, you can get a round punch, drive it into a piece of 6x3, away you go. Timber is still softer than hot metal. This allows me to take any bit of a wobble out of it without damaging the twist. Here I'm just giving it a bit of a filing, getting it nice and sharp. And a good belt of a wire wheel to get it nice and sexy. Originally, this was going to be for 1,000 subscribers, but we have smashed that. We're pushing 6,000. So if you'd like to be in with a chance to win this, just give a like to this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and leave a comment. Thank you so much for the support. Yort.